We are warmly welcoming all of you out there who was engaging with us on Daily Mirror Online as we bring another exclusive, unique discussion on a conversation with leading industry experts to talk about the positioning of future workspaces. Well, work life is something that we cannot keep out of the equation, especially with the dawn of this pandemic and its long-term management process. New perspective on living and adapting to change is something that is greatly considered throughout the world. And to talk explicitly on this, we have with us three distinguished panelists representing an array of organizations, work fields, and expertise. And first, I would like to introduce an individual who is joining with us from overseas, Mr. Sridhar Harivanam, Head of Product Line Management for Asia Pacific for Haworth, and Ms. Yasasi Hettiarachchi, Interior Consultant for Alpha Industries Private Limited, and Mr. Dimitri Weliwita, the Senior Interior Designer and Visiting Lecturer representing Westgate International Private Limited. Thank you all for joining with us on Daily Mirror Online to talk about something truly interesting. But before we dive into the interview itself, I would like to invite each and every one of you to give a small opening statement. I would like to firstly invite Ms. Yasasi to give her sentiments.
Hi. My name is Yasasi Hettiarachchi. I am the lead design consultant for Alpha Industries. So if I may talk about Alpha Industries, about a little bit about Alpha Industries. Alpha Industries is a leading interior manufacturing company who is specialized in corporate interiors with 50 years of history into business in Sri Lanka. So we are a subsidiary of a diversified FICA group of companies. And we offer services such as design and build, turnkey, furniture manufacturing, and also custom design manufacturing. So we currently own two state-of-art manufacturing facilities as well. And lastly, I would like to mention that we do have the exclusivity for Haworth products as well.
Thank you, Ms. Yasasi, for your opening statement. And with that, I would like to invite Mr. Dimitri Weliwita to give your opening sentiments as well.
Thanks, Hiroshi. Well, I'm currently attached to Westgate International Private Limited. Westgate is basically an interior solutions provider with expertise in commercial, hospitality, retail, and residential projects. So over the past 30 years, we have been delivering quality products manufactured in our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. We've also partnered up with Gandhara Lifestyle Stores, who provides us with accessories as well as imported furniture for residents.
Thank you, Mr. Dimitri. And with that, if we can also have Mr. Sridhar's thoughts shared as well prior to the interview.
Sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Sridhar Harivanam, and I head product line management for an organization called Haworth, and I lead product line management for Asia Pacific region at Haworth. I'm responsible for managing the product portfolio, sustainability, and also the design direction for Haworth in Asia Pacific. A little bit about the organization I work for. Haworth is a $2 billion global design-led organization headquartered in the US. We are currently operating in 120 countries across the globe. We're primarily into commercial interiors, which is office furniture. And also we have a vertical that's focused on lifestyle designs, which is more emphasized and focused on hospitality and retail. And we also have a small division focused on performance technology, which is more about how we collaborate more virtually and stuff. But within international, where we are based in Europe and Asia Pacific, we're predominantly focused on the commercial interiors part of it. And in Sri Lanka, we are very proud to partner and associate ourselves with Alpha Industries, and they're our exclusive partner to create inspirational organic workspaces.
Thank you, Mr. Sridhar, for your opening statement. And with that, I will be opening the discussion. And my first question goes to Dimitri. Dimitri, with this pandemic, we have new perspective that is brought to the table in terms of work lifestyle and staying at home. The culture is shaping and transforming. Do you believe that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the interior design industry? And if you do believe that, why do you say so?
Right. Well, yes, of course, I think it has affected our industry as well, as much as it has affected many other industries, because of this pandemic. We have definitely come to realize, I think, that it is not only a health risk, but also an economic uh, risk globally, right? And also, we've been obligated to stay at home as a part of health and safety measures to prevent the spread. So I think this, as a result, most businesses and service providers have faced a lack of demand, in their businesses and their services. And also, this has a direct ripple effect on an investment in terms of, value addition to enhance the look of their spaces by these organizations. But I'm very positive looking at the future. I think across our industries, any industry, we need to be positive about how we're gonna attack these questions and problems that we have never faced before. And if you're creative enough, I think it's a battle that we can fight.
Definitely. And also, being a senior interior designer, you have analyzed how the market is shifting, the requirements are shifting, and from your perspective, how do you see the interior designing industry? What kind of things could you predict in terms of what the future is going to look like for the industry?
Right. So our values have definitely changed over this short period of time, and our habits have changed. In return, our lives have taken a little bit of a twist. And we're looking at our homes, our workspaces, our social environments have definitely changed. And being isolated in our homes, we have definitely become more increasingly aware of how our interior spaces affect our moods, our ability to work, and our physical comfort. So I think working from home will be one idea which we will need to be looking at in the future, which already everyone is sort of talking about, and that's the whole hype, and that's exactly what we're doing right now as well. Talking on a style point of view, I believe that we will work towards minimizing decorative details or any decorative elements to focus mainly on the use and practicality of things. We will definitely be paying attention towards the functional aspect of design more than ever before. And as we learn a theory which says form follows function, and this is a very basic theory which we will definitely be putting into practice now and in the future.
Thank you. I guess being, amidst a pandemic, our health, our well-being, there's so many other functionality aspects, like the functional requirements are definitely prioritized by a lot of sectors around the world. So that is definitely something to look into as well. And with that, Mr. Sridhar, I would like to ask you what we abbreviate as the WFH, work from home. It's a terminology that is often discussed and spoken of. Which is no longer a foreign concept to us, but as it is implemented around the world, we'd like to know your take on how this concept is going to operate, and do you believe this is going to be the new norm in the future?
Yeah, so work from home, I think this is not a new terminology or a phenomena. This has been there in the West and some industries predominantly. But I think definitely the COVID-19 situation has just made this go on a fast track, basically. And I think this is going to become the norm. Personally, I feel like it's going to become more common. Obviously, now that every organization and as an employee, we all know the experience of working from home and there's some benefits and not so good benefits, and depending on person to person. I personally feel it is not going to be home or office. It's going to be home and office. It's not or, it's and. I think it's because we're social animals, right? End of the day, we all go to work because we want to connect, we want to collaborate, we want to add value end of the day. And that's why we all are here as employees, as part of our organization. So I think, personally, I think more organizations are going to give more flexibility from a working from home perspective. But I think office will still be relevant, but because that's how offices are because it preserves the culture of the organization. We still need to see face to face, and so there's going to be a little bit of about that. So definitely more work from home, but I think office also will still be relevant. So it's going to be an office and home, not office or home. That's how we conclude it.
It is truly merging at this
Yep.
moment. Yes. And yes, thank you for your answer for that. And Ms. Yasasi, I would like to ask you that you represent an organization and a work process that is very dedicated, mainly dedicated to developing and optimizing corporate interior. So with workspaces changing, what changes can we expect in terms of commercial interiors, which is something that's truly interesting when you actually look into it. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. So basically, the main change that we identified in terms of commercial interiors is that most industries have now identified that work from home is possible. I mean, as Sridhar said, now it's not work or home, it's like work and home now. So this creates a new design opportunity for home office designs, which we have not put a lot of thought in back in the day. So anyway, even though work from home has become the new norm, so there are industries who still requires to physically be present to provide their services. So if you take, for an example, industries like healthcare, banking, manufacturing, and other industries where the operations are directly dealt with public on daily basis. So also, not forgetting our government sector, where the departments of motor traffic, like Urban Development Authority and so on, where they have to operate, where the frontliners and also back office is required to have physical presence. So actually another example is of Triforces, where the main police stations are forced to like interact with public. So there's a lot of interactions between the public and the staff. So anyway, further to this, so according to renowned design firms and architects such as Glensler and Bain and Brownwell, they're actually predicting that closed office concept is now becoming the trend. So that it provides more personal space where you can do your own work, conduct virtual meetings and also your presentations while having minimum interactions with outside. So this in return will also provide safety from transmission from any other disease. So it's again an adaptation to this pandemic and any other pandemics that will come basically to avoid transmission sort of a thing. So, and also as an effect of upcoming recession that the economists are predicting these days, so organizations will be forced to work in a limited space, actually due to financial constraints. So hence being obliged to create more and more barriers between the workstations to prevent the transmission. So this will again take us back to our old closed office concept. Because all this time we were having the open office concept, we were embracing it a lot. So, but now we have too many restrictions, right? So, and also in addition to this, I believe that we have to put a lot of thought to include more and more meeting pockets to accommodate the new virtual platform that we have embraced when designing the commercial interiors. So as virtual meetings have become the more and more common platform to conduct meetings to avoid physical contact with one another. And we shouldn't forget that size of our conference meeting rooms will be reducing in future as well.
And I would also like to add on to it in terms of, so you made it aware that it will transform, especially given that commercial interiors really tackle with bigger populations and more complex operations, where there's a lot of propensity of contaminations or contact. There's a lot of things to consider. I would also like to know from a perspective of an interior, this question goes out to both Yasasi and Dimitri, how can we actually achieve it? What's your input to that as an interior designer?
Yeah, so as Dimitri mentioned earlier, that this will encourage us to go for a more modern, minimalistic approach to the overall design and to focus highly on the functionality and maintenance. So I would like to actually share a few images. I can share the screen there.
Yes.
So this is actually a closed office concept design. As you can see, like this is actually a very minimalistic, very modern, and also you can see it's very sleek lines and etc. And the material, the choice of material is again modern and also easy to maintain, etc. Right? So and again, coming to my earlier point, so the closed office concept, again, we will like these cubicles will be the places where we conduct our work and the virtual meetings, our presentations. This will be the place that we do everything eventually. So focusing on these designs is going to be of utmost importance. So then, and right now, actually our main objective when designing the offices, apart from the functionality and the maintenance, will be to provide health and safety while optimizing the productivity of the service provider as well, the person who's working as well. So if you take a cash counter in a bank, for example, if for you guys to explain, for me to explain, the design should be done in such a way that the customer has to minimize contact with the service provider. The most effective way in which we can achieve this is by having space planning done carefully, where the foot trafficking and ergonomics are taken into account, because those are very important things when you actually do the space planning, especially nowadays. So because by this way, a person-to-person interaction is minimized. So in also come into play minimizing surface contact. For instance, if you take a door that has an automatic motion sensor control, and also a tap in a public bathroom that has motion sensor control, and also a lighting control system that has voice commands. All these systems will provide minimum surface contact, thereby giving a safe environment to the person who's working there, the person who's utilizing the space. So even the top end architects like Zaha Hadid architects have suggested that this will be the future of office and public spaces. So even though the basic investment might sound like it's high, but still you will be benefiting from the long-term maintenance cost. So in return, you will still get a return of investment. So also, by introducing visual signals to provide safe locations for social distancing is also another method that we can practice to improve our health and safety in office or even in a public area. So these sort of methods are actually being practiced in certain countries, like for example, Singapore. So I can actually share some examples with you guys. So then it will be easy for everyone to understand. For example, like things like these, like it might actually like look very simple, but it actually gives a very high impact. Like these actually helps with creating the social distancing between the people and helps to minimize interactions. So again, like signals like this, so then people gathering and like being stagnant in one place, like these might be little things, but these actually do help. And actually, this is one good example when it comes to an office. So as you can see, these arrows are marked. So basically in such a way that it shows a direction. So then in each area, the circulation is being marked. So you know where to go and all that. And also these little circular other areas that are being marked around the workstations are basically like your social distancing lines. So from this, like even you might be still working in an office, still maintaining those health protocols. Yeah. So then, and also another way, like as I gave you the example on banking counters, we can introduce counter partitions for the frontliners. And not only for banks, even for retail counters, airline counters, and even for healthcare workers who come directly in contact with the public. We should always remember to use seamless and easily sanitizable materials when it comes to designing these kind of things. So as you can see in this image that I've shared, so it's out of a very transparent material. This is very easy. This is out of acrylic. You can easily clean this material. And also it's very important that it's transparent so that the interaction with the outsider or the customer is done properly. Like if you use something very opaque, it's going to be very difficult to interact. So things like that has to come into play. And this is another example of a counter where the banking, the cash transaction, they have like taken off there's a small space to provide that. And this is another a bar area. So, and actually this is a very good example of using front counter partitions and also visual signals. As you can see, the front counter partitions also give acts as a safety barrier, and at the same time these visual signals will act as the social distancing method. So these little things in combination will actually help us to protect ourselves from this COVID pandemic. And another aspect that I would like to point out is when maintaining the health and safety in an office is having adequate ventilation. We might actually sometimes forget about it, because as many of us use in offices and also in retail spaces, the ventilation is provided by the air conditioning. So it is very important to have air conditioning, air filtration mechanisms to minimize the spread of disease. So yeah, I'll just stop the sharing, sorry. Yeah.
All right, so I'll pick it up from there.
Yeah.
In addition to what Yasasi mentioned, I would like to speak a little about the back office spaces, which also plays a huge role in any organization and the organizations that Yasasi mentioned before. And as you correctly said, an emerging trend after COVID-19 is going to be the closed office concept. And this trend is more applicable for spaces like back offices, where there are employees in limited spaces with no luxury of additional space for distancing. When creating office spaces in closed environments, especially with the merger of our virtual environments and our physical environments, or physical platforms or virtual platforms, however you may say, it is very important to have meeting rooms which accommodates all these meetings which happens between co-workers, clients, suppliers, and even interviews like this, right? So the quality of acoustics plays an important role when it comes to this. Unlike the boardroom, which we always paid attention to, we now have to think about this situation when we're designing our spaces regularly, in an office where there will be a lot of virtual meeting pocket areas like Yasasi mentioned. For example, if we work in an office where we don't have good acoustic qualities, there are multiple people having meetings, there will be a lot of echoing, which will definitely disturb one another. And I'm sure we have come across this and experienced this before. So this is how that can be solved. Also, I think now that, again, virtual environments are linking up with physical environments, it is very important to have adequate lighting in such spaces. This could be at your home office or your workplace. Apart from sunlight, definitely, area lighting or general lighting or even spotlighting for adequate illumination will have meetings, will definitely affect the mood of conversation and will help to better present yourself in situations like that. Now, at this moment, I think officers won't instantly shift to a closed office concept. Therefore, until closed office concept comes into play, we need to look at a more faster and a cost-effective solution, for office furniture, etc. So the fastest and most cost-effective solution that I could provide for office spaces is partitions for workstations and workstation clusters. This can be an immediate solution and for protecting against the transmission of the disease. And also this can be used as a temporary measure or a permanent measure. For example, we could use different materials like melamines, MDFs, acrylic panels, or even glass for these divisions. We could also look at fabrics as a division, but we will have to do a nanotechnology or rather use nanotechnology, a nano coating, which brings the price a little higher than the other MDFs or melamines that I was talking about. Let me also share the screen quick to make you understand. Right. So what we're looking at is 4 in a cluster workstation, a couple of workstations with no separators, which is something very commonly seen nowadays. Right. And the partitions that I'm suggesting is something of this sort, which will separate individuals for sitting in front of you as well as on the side. So the standard height for this usually is about 1 foot to 1.5 feet. But what we recommend is about a 2 foot high partition from the top of the table to prevent contact with each other. Right. So that being said, if you do have the luxury of space, the discussion is a little different. Of course, some organizations which understands that working from home can be a permanent solution could be working on a roster, right? So thereby minimizing the number of workstations required on a day-to-day basis and that will create enough space for distancing of workstations from one another. There's a very good example for this as well. It's called the 6-Feet Office Project by Cushman and Wakefield. I would like to share that also with you. So what they've done is they've definitely used a partition, as you could see. They've used an acrylic or a glass, which is see-through, which we also saw in a couple of pictures that Yasasi shared before. They've also introduced a paper placemat, which can be taken in the morning by an employee, used it along the day and disposed it at the end of the day. The reason being these workstations now will be used by many individuals because you're working on a roster, right? So that is to look at the cleanliness of the table from that aspect. What they've looked at also is visual signals, how they can create visual signals to create social distancing in an office. This office is not a brand new office. It's an office which has been shifted here and there. You could see the previous piece of furniture leaving a crease mark on the carpet. So what they have done is they've shifted furniture. They've inserted carpet tiles to display this, limitations, which I think is a brilliant idea. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Thank you, Dimitri, for your insights as well. And with that, I would like to direct my next question to Mr. Sridhar. As we know, heading back to work, and we already discussed a few blueprints of the workspace, home space, and merging it in different styles. But once you open the door, it's not the same world we lived in. There's a lot of risk tackling. There's a lot of things to be cautious about. There are psychological implications on the side as well. So if we take the big picture, Mr. Sridhar, how can we actually make it comfortable to return to work? How can we make workers feel comfortable? What kind of steps could we take? What does that process look like?
Sure. I guess, each one of us or all of our organizations are thinking about exactly the same question, right? How do we go back? In fact, we as an organization went through this drill. And in fact, we published a paper, a white paper, and I can share it at the end of this session. But so basically, from a Haworth perspective, we kind of have broken it into 3 buckets or 3 areas of focus. Number one, I think SSC and Dimitri, I mean, we all agree that safety is number one. So first is employee well-being. So that will be our number one priority. And I don't think, or we all think, that social distancing or physical distancing, depending on how you call it, is not going to go away, at least for the near future. It's going to be there at least for a few months, or at least, I don't know, till we have some good news about the vaccine, or also see how this performance of, so what happens with the whole virus thing, right? So safety is going to be number one, especially with physical distancing, how we, right? And two, there are going to be some changes when we go back to work, right? Our workspace may not look the same, like, some of the illustrations that Yasasi and Dimitri showed. So we're going to go in, and our new layout may be a little different to what it was before. And our workspace would have changed, keeping the physical distancing in our, keeping physical distancing and considering physical distancing. And I think there's also going to be a little bit of stress. I think it's just not the physical space. We also have to think about the employees' cognitive, the psychological aspect, and also the, I would say, the emotional aspect, right? I think there's going to be a lot of stress. We need to also give a sense of security, that they feel safe with all the protocols, the health protocols, and all the things that we think should be in place. And obviously, end of the day, it should not impact their performance. We all are going to work to do a certain task, and only when we take care of the employees' physical, cognitive, and the emotional aspects is when they can really perform and focus and do justice to the role. So that's our number one. Is the basic is the employee well-being, as we all agree, and I think SSC and Dimitri mentioned that. The second bucket, we think, from what we have kind of summarized is, organizational culture. There's a reason why we all go to work, right? We all add value. Value creation is the currency of today's digital world, right? It's all about what value we create, and it's predominantly driven by collaboration. It's the 1 + 1 = 5, right? It's the power of collaboration, and that's the currency today. And I think people have to start thinking about new ways to collaborate with this whole norms in place now. I don't think we will have the cafe that used to look where we would go and chit chat would not be the same. We would probably have to be very awkward to most of us going into a cafe and how we collaborate with the colleagues. So I think there's going to be a little bit of that, and how we as an organization, as we come back to work, we still want the same kind of the DNA, but I think somehow we need to have some deviation to the DNA a little bit, to how we can get back to a normal in a way that we're still safe and we're doing everything we think we are doing to preserve the culture of the organization. So that's the second bucket. And the last bucket is transforming the workflow plate. And I think again, Yasasi and Dimitri did talk a little bit about it. I think a lot of organizations are going to look at remote work as an option for most functions and people that don't have to come to work. And I think, I mean, as Haworth, we are trying to do this more we've kind of created 2 groups. So we alternate different weeks. That's the plan. So once we open up the shutdown in India, lockdown in India next week. So one group, we kind of broke every office into 2 groups. One group goes the week 1, and then the next group goes the week 2. And then again, the group 1 goes to week 3. The reasoning is we want to minimize if something happens, and we don't want anything bad to happen, but if it happens, we want that to be limited to 1 group. And then if it's 1 week, there's a lot of cleaning happening and everything, right? So it will minimize the impact on the broader organization. So again, every organization has a different way of doing it, but I think organizations are going to, look at remote work, at least still short to medium term. Cleanliness is going to become the norm. I think probably our offices will be cleaned every other hour rather than every day. So every 2 hours, especially the high zones where the doorknobs, the bathrooms and restrooms, right? Wherever there's high traffic area, they're going to be clean more. Safety is going to be density. There's a lot of work that's going to happen. I just want to share some illustrations. So what you see here is, again, these are some examples that I'm just showing what we've done for some of, So basically what I'm trying to show here is, again, I'm not saying this is the solution. Again, good examples already illustrated already in this webinar, but, a cafe example. And again, we just gave again, this is not a one solution fits all. It's just an illustration of what that could evolve. If your current setting is like this in a cafe, what's going to happen is it's going to be more about, how we kind of maintain the distance between how people are seated. They don't sit face to each other. And you can see where you had multiple people sitting around this table. Now you just have one person having a meal there, right? So that's what is going to happen in the short term. And long term, we feel like, like what Dimitri was talking about, because longer screens that can differentiate or separate people from each other, because we still want to make sure cafe to be used as cafe, and still we can have a little bit of collaboration. But I think in long term, it's going to evolve. And I think it's going to be different for different customers, depending on the application. Different cultures also plays a big role. So that's a good example. This is a benching application, and I think we're talking about closed offices as an example here. So this is the benching solution. This is where the current state is. What we see in the short term is obviously we want to avoid that, physical distancing. We want to maintain that physical distancing. So I think in short term, people are going, like, as people work more remotely, so it's the people that come to office can separate a little bit and maintain that, 2-meter distance that is recommended. And then eventually in long term, we could see the return of the panels, the high panels, to kind of separate people. And so again, this is what we envision on what might happen. Again, this is just our thinking about how it could evolve. This is another example of a beam-based solution that we see. You can see that, we have a place for people to come and sit and chat. I think for short term, that's going to go away. And eventually it's going to evolve. More screens are going to play more of a bigger role because it's all about physical distancing. And that's, again, we're reacting to the situation, to be frank. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months or 1 year. I think it all depends on how severe the virus gets, and also if there is any vaccine that may come out in the future. Things may look totally different. But as of now, we feel that this is how it's going to go. One more thing I just want to show so this is the white paper I was referring to. So if you go to haworth.com, we have a white paper called Return to Workplace, and you can basically download it. So I'm just sharing with you because it's basically, we have actually interviewed a lot of our global customers across Europe and Asia Pacific, and have gotten their feedback on what their plans are. And based on that input, we have created, or we have come up with this white paper. So again, we have a discussion paper, we have a PPT. We also have some recommendation from a human resources perspective. And we also have a very good document on disinfection, or recommendation guidelines on how you clean your existing surfaces and what to use, what not to use. Yep, so that's it from me on that.
Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. And to add to that, I would also like to know what kind of an impact will the COVID-19 situation have on your future products, leading in product development. What's your brief take on that?
Sure. I think short term, we all know what the answer is. It's all going to be dividers. I mean, it's just going to be a reaction, right? We all are reacting to a scenario. We want to be safe. And I think short term is all about screen dividers. And I think irrespective of what we all feel, it's going to happen. So I think, short term is going to be screen dividers and how to avoid that how to maintain the physical distancing. In midterm, I personally feel there's going to be more easy to clean surfaces and materials. I think what's going to happen is that obviously we all have existing spaces. We can't just change it overnight. So when I say midterm, I'm talking about 4 to 6 months range, right? So if you have a new space coming up, people are going to think more about how do we put in materials and surfaces that are easy to clean and can take the beating, right? We're not going to clean it once a week, maybe for our fabric screens. Now we're going to clean maybe once every 3 to 4 hours, So I think that the material is going to take more and more beating. So you're going to see more high performing materials that are going to be introduced in the midterm. And also, I think right now, like I said about screens, we're reacting. I think we're going to have more matured and more structured, organized, better screen solutions, more mobility, more agility, because I think right now we're just reacting and we're just going to do whatever we can to do the physical distancing. But I think as we all get more time, I think as we see what's going to happen in the next 6 to 8 months time frame, I think there's going to be better solutions that are going to come in and which would be more sustainable in the near future. Long term, I personally I believe that I think home office is going to become a norm more from a flexibility perspective. And I agree with SSC and Dimitri's. They talked about home office segment. I think there's going to be more innovation, product innovation in home office segment. I think when it comes to furniture, office, chairs, there's a lot of innovation that happen in the office segment, and there's a certain way how we want our offices to be, but our homes are just totally different animal when it comes to how our spaces needs to be at home. Not all of us live in specific apartments and luxurious homes, right? It's going to change the way. So I think there's going to be a lot of product innovation when it comes to home office segment. There's going to be a lot of e-commerce, I feel. E-commerce are going to take off, I feel. I think there's going to be more bundling of products for home office, a storage and a desk and a height adjustable table. So I think people are going to bring in more options to home office. And I think we're seeing that trend already with customers, employees of global customers. They're getting all that, as a first kind of iteration. And I think that's going to become the norm soon. Long term, there's also going to be a lot of material innovation. And we have to see how that goes, because it all depends on how severe the whole COVID-19 situation gets, and also the solution for vaccine and stuff. If it goes beyond, I think there's going to be a lot of material innovation. And then last but not the least, I also feel there's a new kind of concept called active chairs. That's something that we think will take off. Right now, when you look at a work chair, a cast chair, you have a lot of controls, right? We try to adjust based on our preference. I think there's a new category of chairs called active chairs, where the chair gets activated by your body weight. With minimal adjustments required. I feel like at workplace, there's going to be more and more active chairs that people are going to use, because one, it will minimize the cleanability aspect, because you don't have to clean very often, and it's just certain aspects of the chair that you clean. So that's how I break it down from a short, mid, and long-term perspective. And some of the things, again, they may change as what happens in the next few months, but I feel these are some trends that I see that may happen soon in the future.
For your forecast on that. And also, my next question goes out to Dimitri. As we know that materials are a recipe, I mean, when you take the recipe of a successful product development, materials play a very vital role, especially in the given situation. It matters now more than ever. If you can maybe add your insights as to how materials can play a role in modifying and adapting to the new changes in the workspaces.
Definitely. I think I agree to what you said, and even Sridhar mentioned about new innovations on materials. But currently, I think materials that when we're using materials, it is important for us to select materials that are easy to maintain. That's the basis of what's going on right now. So non-porous materials and finishes are very easy to clean, and some are even seamless. These are not new inventions. This is stuff that's already being used. But we need to know where exactly to use this in this current situation. So definitely seamless, materials also helps easy maintenance, to create a hygienic environment. When talking about workstations and separators specifically, again, like I mentioned before, melamines, glass, acrylic, and finishes like PU paints can be used for them, which is easily washable or cleanable. Also, another material is nano-repellent materials and materials with antimicrobial properties for areas with which needs fabrics, right? Because you cannot deviate from wanting fabrics for maybe seating, or even fabric paneling used for acoustic purposes, like I discussed before, and or even partitioning for that matter. And top clean technology is a very good example, which is a rather new development, but already existing. I would like to show you a clip on what top clean is actually about. and that'll help us understand further. Right. I hope that gave you an insight to what top clean technology is, which is also known as a nanotechnology. And at last but not least, I would like to talk about a few flooring materials that we can use. These are, again, already existing materials like epoxy paints and vinyl, which can be used for especially public and health sector areas, apart from the commonly used tile flooring. I would like to again share my screen to show you a few images. Right, I hope you can see an image of a blue floor. Basically, this is a basic vinyl flooring, right, which is used mainly in the healthcare sector, but also to there are different textures to this flooring, which comes in sheets. So the seam, it's not seamless, but the seams are at wide apart connections. And then we also can achieve this sort of a finish with vinyl planks, which are installed like so. And then moving on to epoxy flooring. Epoxy is a material which it's a couple of adhesives, sort of a liquid. It comes in a liquid form, and it when you lay it on the floor, it's self-leveling and it sets by itself. This is actually a seamless product. What you see right now is a very basic, again, sort of an alternative to this sort of expensive, more luxurious marble epoxy finishes. So again, there are the low end of things and the high end of things, depending on the requirement. And again, going back to the whole idea of being able to clean and basically clean and be clean in these given times.
Yes, and also to add to that, I would like to ask Mr. Sridhar on your thoughts on antimicrobials, because this is something that's associated with products, especially with the given context. This will be coming into the equation when it comes to different product development. So if you can maybe clarify on what this is all about and how this is incorporated in various types of products.
Sure. Yeah, with the current concerns surrounding the COVID-19 virus, we see a trend for antimicrobial surface treatments, a significant increase and a lot of inquiries coming from our customers, and it's already being used and some manufacturers are already promoting it. And From an Haworth perspective, we're kind of taking a different point of view on this. I think there's a difference between, I think antimicrobial surfaces are effective against bacteria. They have some effect against bacteria, but it has not been proven that they are effective against virus, especially COVID-19. So we don't know that. So we don't know what we don't know. So we're being very cautious with that. One of the things that's why we've been promoting is it's more about cleaning rather than trying to go for something that we don't know about. The other thing is, we've done some research also on this, and there's no suggestion or any effectiveness of this antimicrobial treatment is going to really help us make our products prevent this disease, or no data suggests that. So that's one. Two, they may increase the risk of superbugs. We all know that when we get a viral fever, when we take medication, right, we say that our resistance gets lower, right? It's very similar to that. I think the more we use, studies have shown that the more we use antimicrobial surface treatments, it may contribute to more widespread antibiotic resistance in us. So that could also lead to increase in seasonal allergies. So we may get more allergies because our resistance level is getting lower and lower when we start using antimicrobial surface treatments. The other thing also is that most antimicrobial surfaces are classified as pesticides. So obviously it's not good for the environment. Again, we need to get into the details. I think there's a lot of promotion happening out there, but from an organization perspective, we just want to do a proper deep dive and due diligence before we start promoting them. That's what we're doing. And right now, we haven't seen a stronger business case that this is going to help the scenario. So that's why we've been focusing more on cleaning and making sure that we clean more often and have the right materials rather than going for a material that may not really serve the purpose. So that's our take from here. Antimicrobials.
And also we did speak about explicitly we spoke about the physical aspect of the products and how we modify it. And maybe to add to that, I would like to invite Ms. Yasasi to talk about the psychological comfort, maybe take on a new perspective on that.
Yeah, thank you. Especially given that with the new COVID situation and all these new habits changing, as Dimitri mentioned. So, and also as much as physiological health and safety is important in a workspace, maintaining psychological well-being also plays a very important role these days, I think, with the designs. So incorporating psychological aspect in a workspace will improve employees' mood and also productivity, which in return will actually benefit the company. So there is a return investment if you think of it. So anyway, so there are a few ways I would like to discuss to improve on the psychological well-being in a workspace. So I would like to share again the screen to show you guys a few images so that I can explain better. Okay, so actually, one area that we could improve the psychological well-being is through overall spatial design. Again, I actually earlier mentioned about the importance of it to you guys. The recent research actually, research between the University of Bath and also the Bath Spa University and Atkins, who is a member of SNC Lavalin Group. Has found out that the spatial impact can actually affect the employee's well-being. So if the space is too little and too crowded, it will make the employee feel very stressed and uncomfortable. And if it's too spacious again, it will make them disconnected from one another. So I just wanted to show you this image is a very good example of bad design. So this is very bad spatial arrangement. A person who's working in a space like this is actually going to be very stressed, and your productivity is going to go very low. And this is another example that I just wanted to show to explain it to you guys how spatial design can impact on a person's mood and the psychological aspect of it. And so this arrangement is actually a much more work-friendly environment. So where the ergonomics are well thought and the areas are specifically designed in such a way that it's more spacious, it's not too spacious and it's not too cramped up. So from these things, it will enhance the productivity and also it will be a very work-friendly environment. So apart from the spatial design, so I would also like to emphasize on the impact on colors on psychological well-being. So if I may show you, just take a look at this image for an example. Onto your left-hand side, you can see the white. So white is actually, it represents purity and cleanliness. So when you see this picture, when you look at the left side of it, you guys will see like very clean and crisp and like a modern kind of a feeling. And onto your right, it's blue, which actually gives you more calm feeling. So it'll make you feel like a little bit of a serene sort of a thinking. And if you take this picture for an example, I hope you guys feel a little bit more soothing. I mean, as comparatively to the previous picture. So because color green is supposed to be giving a little bit more calmness and relaxing, peaceful. And again, colors like yellow color, it stimulates creativity. And again, colors like red color, it could be motivational. So I hope you understand me taking you through all these different pictures with different colors has given you like different moods and different impacts of some sort. So it does, but you have to remember to use in moderate quantities. And another way to improve the psychological well-being is by adding greenery or enabling view of nature into your office. So this will again create a significant positive impact on the morale. So again, the research has shown that including greenery into your office can actually improve several areas such as your productivity, your memory retention, your creativity, and also problem solving things. And not forgetting this, having greenery reduces a lot of stress, which is very helpful in a work environment. So just a few examples I just want to show you. Like it actually does, these might be simple things for you guys, I mean, for us to think about, but then it actually does a lot of impact when it comes to a person who's working in the space. I just wanted to take you guys through one last point that is about sunlight, because even though most of our officers have blocked off the sunlight coming into the office, it has now shown that it improves the mood of the employee. And also, in addition to that, research from World Green Building Council, they have discovered that the exposure to sunlight actually direct impacts on the moods and also the sleep quality, which can increase your productivity by 40%. So this is like another example. And also just wanted to point out on the sunlight factor. This will also benefit your overall electricity bill, because there'll be some saving because of some daylight saving. Other improvements like noise levels and also incorporating visual textures also will create different impacts on psychological well-being overall. So these are kind of small points, but important things.
Thank you, Ms. Yasasi. And overall, we did talk about multiple facets of interesting, perspectives on how we can improve the workspaces. And we are wrapping up today's discussion. But before we do that, I would kindly like to once again invite Ms. Yasasi Hettiarachchi to give the closing statement.
Thank you, Hiroshi. So I would like to, I hope that you guys have a better understanding about the future of workspaces after a discussion with Dimitri and Sridhar, who's from India as well. Thank you for being with us. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone, and also Hiroshi for hosting us, the webinar, and all the event organizers. And also, please do not hesitate if you have any questions. I think Hiroshi will link us with a some kind of link
Yes.
so that you can direct the questions to us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are wrapping up today's exclusive discussion where we spoke about positioning for the future of workspaces. Once again, I thank Mr. Sridhar Harivanam, Head of Product Line Management for Asia Pacific for Haworth, Ms. Yasasi Hettiarachchi, Interior Consultant for Alpha Industries Private Limited, and Mr. Dimitri Weliwita, Senior Interior Designer and Visiting Lecturer representing Westgate International Private Limited. And with that, we are wrapping up today's interview. And if you do have any queries, inquiries, questions, or concerns, feel free to reach out to us with the comment section below, or you can privately communicate to us so we can convey your messages to the relevant individuals as well. And with that, we also invite you to follow up on the Alpha Industries Private Limited page on Facebook. And we will be showcasing this content later on for your consideration as well. With that, we are wrapping up today's session. Hope you have a blissful day and a couple of weeks ahead adapting to the new world, and hope you all stay safe. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.